stories, The Wishing Spell. To my grandma, for being the first editor and giving me the best writing advice I'd ever received, Christopher. I think you should wait until you're done with elementary school before worrying about being a failed writer. Prologue, The Queen's Visit. The dungeon was a miserable place. The light was scarce and flickered from the torches bolted through the stone walls. Foul-smelling water dripped inside from the moat circling the palace above. Large rats chased each other across the floor searching for food. It was no place for a queen. It was just past midnight, and all was quiet except for occasional rustle of a chain. Through the heavy silence, a single set of footsteps echoed through the halls as someone climbed down the spiral steps into the dungeon. A young woman emerged from down the steps with a head-to-toe long emerald cloak. She cautiously made her way past the rows of cells, spiking the interest of the prisoners inside. With every step she took, her pace became slower and slower, and her heart beat faster and faster. The prisoners were arranged according to crime. The deeper she walked into the dungeon, the crueler and more dangerous the criminals became. Her sight was set on the cell at the very end of the hall, where a prisoner of special interest was being watched by a large private guard. The woman had come to ask a question. It was a simple question, but it consumed her thoughts every day, kept her lying awake most nights, and was the only thing she dreamed about with the little sleep she managed. Only one person could give her the answer she needed, and that person was on the other side of the prison bars ahead. I wish to see her, the cloaked woman said to the guard. No one is allowed to see her, the guard said, almost amused by the request. I'm on strict orders from the royal family. The woman lowered her hood and revealed her face. Her skin was pale as snow, and her hair was dark as coal. Her eyes were green as a forest. Her beauty was known throughout the land, and the story was known even beyond them. Your Majesty, please forgive me, the stunned guide apologized. He quickly bent over and pronounced a bow. I wasn't expecting anyone from the palace. No apology necessary, she said, but please don't speak of my presence here tonight. Of course, the guard said, nodding. The woman faced the bars, waited for them to be raised, but the guard hesitated. Are you sure you want to go in there, Your Highness? The guard said. There's no telling of what she's capable of. I must see her, the woman said, at any cost. The guard began turning a large circular lever, and the bars of the cell rose. The woman took a deep breath and continued past them. She journeyed through a longer, darker hallway, where a series of bells and barriers were raised and then lowered after she walked past them. Finally, she reached the end of the hall as the last set of bars were raised. She stepped into the cell. The prisoner was a woman. She sat on a stool of the center of the cell and stared up at a small window. The prisoner waited a few moments before acknowledging the visitor behind her. It was the first visitor she had had ever, and she knew who it would be without looking. There was only one person it could be. Hello, Snow White, the prisoner said softly. Hello, stepmother, this Snow White replied with a nervous quiver. I hope you are well. Although Snow White had rehearsed exactly what she wanted to say, she now was finding it nearly impossible to speak. I heard that you are queen now, her stepmother said. It's true, said Snow White. I've inherited the throne as my father intended. So what do I owe this honor? Have you come to watch me wither away? Her stepmother said. There was such authority and power in her voice, it was known to make the strongest of men melt like ice. On the contrary, Snow White said, I've come to understand. To understand what? The stepmother asked harshly. Why? Snow White hesitated. Why did you do what you did? And with this said, Snow White felt like a weight lifted off her shoulders. She had finally asked the question that had been so strongly on her mind. Half the challenge was over. There were many things about this world that you don't understand, the stepmother said, and turned to look at her stepdaughter. It was the first time in a long time that Snow White had seen her stepmother's face. It was the face of a woman who was once possessed by beauty without flaw, and the face of a woman who had once been queen. Now, the woman sitting before her was just a prisoner whose looks had faded into a permanent, sorrowful scowl. That may be, Snow White said, but you can't blame me for trying to find some sort of reason behind your actions. The recent years of Snow White's life had become scandalous of the kingdom's royal history. Everyone knew the story of the fair princess who'd taken a refuge with the 7 dwarfs and hiding from their jealous stepmother. Everyone knew the infamous poisoned apple and the dashing prince who saved Snow White from false death. The story was simple, but the aftermath was not. Even with a marriage and a monarchy to occupy her time, Snow White found herself constantly wondering if her theories of her stepmother's vanity were true. Something inside the queen refused to believe that someone could be so miraculous. Do you know what they're calling you out there? Snow White asked. Outside these walls, the world refers you to as to the evil queen. If that is what the world has labeled me, then that is the name I shall learn to live with, the evil queen said. Once the world has made a decision, there is little anyone can do to change its mind. Snow White was astonished by how little her stepmother cared, but Snow White needed her to care. She needed to know there was some humanity left in her. They wanted to execute you after they discovered your crimes against me. The whole kingdom wanted you dead. Snow White's voice faded into a faint whisper as she fought off the emotions fighting up inside of her. But I wouldn't allow it. I couldn't. Am I supposed to thank you for sparing me? The evil queen said. If you expect someone to fall at your feet and express gratitude, you've come to the wrong cell. I didn't do it for you. I did it for myself, Snow White said. Like it or not, you are the only mother I've ever known. I refuse to believe that you are the soulless monster the rest of the world claims you to be. Whether it's true or not, I believe there is a heart deep down inside of you. Tears rolled down Snow White's pale face. She had promised herself she would stay strong, but she had lost control of her emotions since she was in her stepmother's presence. Then I'm afraid you're wrong, the evil queen said. The only soul I've ever had died a long time ago. The only heart you'll find in my possession is a heart of stone. The evil queen did indeed have a heart of stone, but not inside of her. A rock of the shape of a heart, in human size, the size of a human heart, in the shape of a human heart, was on a small table in the corner of the cell. It was the only item the evil queen had been permitted to keep while she was arrested. Snow White recognized the stone from her childhood. It had always been very precious to her stepmother, and the evil queen would never let it out of her sight. Snow White would never been allowed to touch it or hold it, but nothing was stopping her now. She walked across the cell, picked it up, and curiously stared down at it. It brought back so many memories, all the neglect and sadness her stepmother had caused her as the child rushed through her. All my life I only wanted one thing, Snow White said. Your love. When I was a girl, I used to spend hours in hiding in the palace just hoping you would notice I was missing. You never did. You spent your days in chambers with magic mirrors and your skin creams and the stone. You spent more time with strangers in anti-agony methods you ever did with your own daughter. But why? The evil queen did not answer. You tried to kill me 4 times, 3 of which you attempted yourself, Snow White said, shaking her head in disbelief. When you dressed as an old woman, you came to my door at the dwarf's cottage. I knew it was you. I knew you were dangerous, but I kept letting you in. I kept hoping that you would change. I let you harm me. Snow White had never confessed this to anyone, and she couldn't help but bury her face in the palms of her hands and cry after saying it. You think you know how to break? The evil queen said, so sharply it startled her stepdaughter. You know nothing of pain. You have received affectionate by me, but from the moment you were born, you were loved by the whole kingdom. Others, however, are not so fortunate. Others, Snow White, sometimes have the only loved ones they're ever taken from them. Snow White didn't know what to say. What love was she referring to? Are you speaking of my father? Snow White asked. Evil Queen closed her eyes and shook her head. Naive is a privileged trait, she said. But believe it or not, Snow White, I had my own life. Before I came into yours. Snow White grew quiet and slightly ashamed. Of course, she knew her stepmother had a life, but had always been such a private person, Snow White never had a reason to think of it. Where's my magic mirror? The evil queen demanded. It has been destroyed, Snow White said. Suddenly, the evil queen's stone became much heavier in Snow White's hand. Snow White didn't know if this was actually happening or if she was just imagining it. Her arm became tired of holding the stone, and she had put it to the side. There's so much you're not telling me, Snow White said. There are so many things you've kept from me all these years. This evil queen lowered her head and stared down at the ground. She remained silent. I may be the only person in the world with any compassion for you. Please tell me what's going on. It's not going to a waste, Snow White pleaded. If there were events in your past that influenced your recent decisions, please explain them to me. Still, there was no response. I'm not leaving until you tell me, Snow White said, raising her voice for the first time in her life. Fine, the evil queen said. Snow White took a seat on another stool in the cell. The evil queen waited a moment before beginning, and Snow White's anticipation grew. Your story will be forever romanticized, she told Snow White. No one will ever think twice about mine. I will continue to be degraded into nothing but a catastrophic villain in the end of time. But what world fails to realize that it is a villain, not just a victim? Whose story hasn't been told? Everything I have done, my life's work and my crimes against you, it's all been for him. Snow White felt her own heart grow heavy. Her body was spinning and curiously taking over her entire body. Who? She asked, so quickly that she forgot to hold back the desperation in her voice. The evil queen closed her eyes and let her memories surface. The images of places and people from her past flew out from the back of her mind like fireflies in a cave. There was so much she had seen in her younger years, so many things she wished she remembered, so many things she wished to forget. I will tell you about my past. I will tell you about my past, or at least the past of someone I once was, Evil Queen said. But consider yourself warned. My story is not one that ends happily ever after.